I mean, looking at this draft here, I think a lot of this is going to go down to how much Kroko can make sure that top lane doesn't get out of control. A lot of the pressure is going to be on him. If they can get an early lead, then Fate gets down that mid turret, and things become a little bit more comfortable for Liv Sandbox. Otherwise, I feel like Nongshim get a lot of comfort picks here. Rich loves the Jace. Peanuts, obviously a great Nidalee player. I mean, you look down the line on Nongshim's side, you think, wow, they got every champion that's meta that they really like to play, basically. With with the exception of Aatrox, like this is exactly what you'd want if you're Nongshim.
Yeah, I would have to agree, and I feel like it meshes pretty well as a composition. You know, they have a really nice amount of poke. You've got Spears, accelerated shock blast. You're going to have Aphelios and Syndra doing their amount of poke, and they've got a really nice spike here in the mid game. I feel like Syndra and Jace especially could just take some of those squishy members on the side of Liv Sandbox and just pop them like a balloon. So it'll be interesting to see how the side of Liv Sandbox does handle it. I do agree with you. I think the top lane is going to be a lot of focus there, and especially because we saw Rich overextending a lot in the Kespa Cup. So maybe trying to take advantage of that could be their win condition tonight.
Completely agree. I think a lot of pressure on Kroko in this game. In the early game, he is going to have to make some plays. He is going to have to be aggressive. That's what he's so famous for so early on in his career, for those who watched Kespa Cup, especially on the Olaf. So I think the pressure is on this young, new player, first time in the LCK, up against veteran Peanut in the jungle. If he can make some plays, I think they absolutely can win this early game.
For sure. So guys, let's hop into game number 1 right now. Here we are for match 3. Nongshim Red Force up against Liv Sandbox. And these teams have already butted heads 4 times here with the new roster changes. And it'll be interesting to see how this one does end up in these best of 3s that we do have for the LCK.
Yeah, you talked about Rich overextending a lot in the top lane and getting picked. I think that's something that should always be on Kroko's eye. You see the ward check here coming down from Nidalee early. Make sure that there is no shenanigans going on. I'm just going to head right back in with the sweeper swap, I believe. Yep, got the swap there. So nice little ward check. And you always got to be careful about Olaf because he can be aggressive very early on in the jungle against the Nidalee. So better safe than sorry. So pretty standard check there.
Yeah, don't mind it at all. Very curious about this mid lane. We'll have to wait and see how this one is going to go. I think that certainly it could just turn into a farm fest where the two of them just go head to head, and a lot of the focus is on top and bot lane. And, you know, it'll be up to those two mid laners to try to get some pushing pressure and go from there and try to support some of the other plays. But I'm going to stand by what I said earlier. I do think that Fate will have the advantage coming into this one in terms of the players that we do have in the mid lane. So I'm excited to see what he does get going. The draft was pretty interesting for Liv Sandbox. The fact that they prioritized Gnar that much. I mean, the fact that Effort was going to play Leona was, I mean, everybody should know that. I mean, it's like it's his main champion. They need a support left. It's very meta right now. He was always going to play Leona. But instead, they just said, we need the Gnar first. We're not going to hold the top lane counter pick. And Effort goes ahead and picks Leona anyway.
And Gnar's been picked a lot early, as we do see actually a nice hook here.
Oh man. Well, Effort's dead. Just like that, first blood. That's going to be yeah. I mean, that's just like, oh man. Effort, he's a fantastic Leona player. I do feel like some of these supports have been getting caught a lot. We saw that yesterday too. And just like that, it's just a straight up hook and death. I mean, it doesn't get more straightforward than that.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, the other thing is too, like, it feels like it's been a while since we've had Thresh as a support kind of staple. I mean, he's been through many different metas of the LCK and even LoL champions over the years. I mean, he's always been very strong. And sometimes he pops back in, but it feels like it's been a very long time since we've seen him as a mainstay, so almost just feels like people are rusty at positioning against him because we're just seeing way too many hooks in the early game. I mean, this should just never happen, frankly, at this stage of the game. There's a big overextension there from Effort, and here's Kroko trying to punish Rich already from the get-go.
Yeah, story checks out. This is what we expected for sure. Both junglers, you know, just clearing from bottom to top as they do. Not really a surprise there, and just visiting the top lane. Peanut gonna pick up that top scuttle, and I would imagine that Krako just immediately guns it for the bottom scuttle, and hopefully doesn't get that one stolen away. So let's take a look at how Effort just straight up gets hooked.
Yeah, I mean, he just gets hooked here. I mean, even like even if he had Zenith bladed in, I don't think there's any scenario where he wins this. And Summit.
Oh. Yeah, we have the teleport coming in, and Peanut actually got turret aggro, so that's a little bit awkward. Doesn't look like Fate is going to follow up with a crazy flash or anything like that, but, you know, just a small little dive there to get the teleport away from the Zoe. Still going to be a nice little win to the side of Nongshim.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty amazing for Bae, who's just going to shove into turret, and even actually looks for some action down here, potentially around this scuttle. It's a little bit too late, unfortunately, but nice little advantage there, taking the teleport away. And thinking about Krako, it says he's nervous about his LCK debut, but he won't play like a rookie. I'd love to see confidence with a player like Krako, who's extremely aggressive.
Yeah, and it doesn't really feel like he was the type of player to let the nerves get to him. You know, Kespa Cup coming in on the new roster, he performed pretty well, as Bae is also going to have some words. He says, "I'll reduce my mistakes and gel with my teammates to make Nongshim find their color." Well, the color is red because you guys are the Red Force. So I don't think you need to find the color, but either way, we'll hope that Bae can mesh a little bit better.
He has
yeah.
He has you know, safe mid lane matchups and farm on the spectrum, you know, on his Roy G Biv somewhere.
Yeah.
He takes his Syndra and puts it through a light prism to find out what color it is.
Oh, we got a nice little trade up here on the top side. Summit has to flash away. The accelerated shock blast is going to sail wide. Looks like he wanted to try to curve those around the minions that were coming in, but still a really nice straight up trade here in the top side. Krako going to be spotted by a ward, and that's going to reduce a lot of the pressure that Rich has to deal with, because Summit with no flash is going to make this top lane a little bit easier. Although, as I do say that, Fate is edging up to the top side.
Yeah, they're really pushing this right now. Fate coming up here. Bae had to clear the wave first, but he's on his way as well. They're just going to have to take this blast cone out, escape. That was a pretty scary moment. There are good reactions across the board in both teams, and does end up being a pretty even trade, all things considered, in terms of those rotations there. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Vision Control going over to Live Sandbox here with the rotation up from Effort.
Yeah, looks like the bottom lane river area is going to be controlled there by Effort, so he gets that down. Bae just pushing the mid lane. He was able to get first track into the mid lane, and remember that there's no teleport on the Zoe, so some CS going to be missed there. Notice the top lane, that gap is also widening pretty largely as they're going to go for the root here onto Effort. Another hook going to come in. The flash available, but they're just trying to trade it back onto Kellen, who does take a ton of damage, but again, Effort has to flash away as Peanut going to have that spear sail wide. And Krako getting here a little bit late to the party, not going to amount to much. But again, another trade here that is essentially, you know, one summoner of Ignite for both of Effort's summoner in this bottom lane. Once again, looking pretty good for Nongshim.
Yeah, this is a really nice trade for them. And they even set up, potentially, for a spear to finish a kill, had Live Sandbox try to actually engage on that further. They eventually realized that that was going to be pretty foolish, and there was a follow-up there that was just a faster rotation coming through from Nidalee. That's what she's going to get you. That's part of the strengths of her as a jungler, and Krako, unfortunately, unable to undertake in that battle.
Yeah, didn't undertake too much. Didn't get much done in that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like trying to take partake and turn it into undertake, and it just really, you know, when it was in my head, it sounded a lot better than when it came out of my mouth. You know.
I was wondering if you were referring to Undertow, his ability. I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to turn partake into a, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, still kind of worked. As a bubble comes in here, Fate nicely gonna dodge that stun, but he's not gonna overcommit. Doesn't know exactly where the enemy jungle is. And with the Rift Herald here spawning at 8 minutes, it looks like the focus of Live Sandbox is going to be on the top side with that one. But Nongshim say, sure, go ahead. I mean, we're just going to take all your plates, I guess. Meanwhile, Effort is level 4.
Yeah, this is what the scary part of Aphelios can be when he gets this weapon type and he just tears turrets apart. And if he just continues to put pressure on like this, he's going to get that gold advantage. And I do feel there's a pretty good chance we see that lane swap later on from him. Or he just simply goes mid and finds value there when rotations happen if they want to give up some objectives later on. Right now, it looks like, speaking of which, they are going to just simply let this Rift Herald go. And he's just going to stay in the bot lane and try to grab another plate, potentially. Kellen, look at Kellen's positioning. He's just like, nope, I'm going to threaten, so it makes it look like, you know, there might be something happening over here, but it's really just the push in the bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, Kellen's kind of smurfing today. You know, he lands that first hook. He gets the bottom lane ahead. His roam timings have been astoundingly good. And once again, he's able to pressure a lot down on the bottom side. Now, we are going to have this Rift Herald put up into the top lane as Rich will look to take an aggressive trade, but that might just mean his doom, as there is really nowhere for him to run. Just going to be taken down as Krako takes that kill. And looks like the Rift Herald actually went down pretty fast there, but still, a kill and a couple of plates not going to be so bad for Liv Sandbox. They really need to catch up right now as that bottom lane is getting shredded.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be almost a full plate for a full plate here. In fact, I just don't think there's any way they can stop Liv Sandbox on the top here. Obviously, the gold funnel is arguably better since this is going straight to Duck Dom, whereas the top one is split. But it is going to be about the same amount of gold gained across the board. But still, Nongshem being faster on the draw with this, there was never a moment of hesitation. This is the kind of macro I'm talking about with Aphelios just being able to cut down turrets, where Nongshem just doesn't hesitate. They just see a Rift Herald take, and they immediately Drake and push this bot turret. So it's a better trade for them overall. In terms of the gold, obviously, it's fairly even. They actually don't even get that last bit of the turret in the top lane, so Rich is going to be happy with that. He's going to head back up and grab that wave, and Nongshem getting small advantages over time with this bot lane pressure.
Yeah, and it was pretty funny to watch the trade of the plates, too, because Liv Sandbox just getting bulwarked up there in the top side. Everybody's stacking on that turret, not really able to do even more damage than the lone Aphelios down on the bottom side, who, you know, originally it was just the same amount of plates, but now he's also taking down the entire turret. So he got all the plates, plus the First Blood turret, plus the First Blood. I mean, look at him. He's 1,500 gold ahead of Root already, and he has a Gale Force. So, like, Duck Dom, you know, we were talking about in the match points how this bottom lane is looking really good right now. And so far, they have absolutely proved it, as they are just stacking the cash right now in this first game.
And he's just going to go straight to the top lane. The lane swap is here, and he wants more turret plates. This is every single Aphelios game for Duck Dom. We've not just seen it from Nongshem before, but you know, this is a common strategy, especially when you have the Thresh to go roam together. It's a lot safer with this really strong support they've got with him, and it gives him a lot more mobility. Mobile turret, as you called him earlier. So if you try to punish this, you can actually die for it, because a Lantern just gives you so much freedom. I really like how Nongshem plays this, and this is not the first time they've done this, you know, and it's just a well-practiced strategy, and when left open, Nongshem is going to play what they're comfortable with, and this just keeps happening.
Yeah, certainly, you know, if you get a strategy and it keeps working, don't change it. As Kellen has to be careful here. That's going to be a pretty late blade coming out there from the Leona, but he's dead, it looks like, anyway, as Duck Dom, though, trying to come in with the big carry. He's got that crescendum rolling, as Kellen is going to survive as well. Fate jumping in there, trying to make something happen at the end of that one. But another kill going to be fed over to the side of Nongshem, and they do not even get the Thresh that they committed so much for.
I mean, this was absolutely, again, no hesitation, and it felt almost planned the way that Kellen engaged there, because he had the box set up, he had the flash into the brush, it was perfectly positioned, he knew that there was a pretty good chance that someone was in that brush. If you watch it again, he comes over here, baits out the undertow, and he's just going to go ahead and toss his box here. He does, of course, stopwatch away, and the damage output is so strong at this point. And even with the Ragnarok there, his hook does a little bit of extra damage, and they're able to burst down Krako before he dies. Pretty impressive stuff here, and Nongshem just one step ahead with these rotations yet again.
Yeah, seems like they're just playing with some really nice confidence. Love the play there from Kellen. I feel like I'm already writing down my POG vote as we go here. Sometimes the games are decided very early on, and this game isn't over by any means, of course, but Kellen has certainly made some really big strides to get his team ahead. As you know, as you mentioned, with the lane swap that comes in with the priority you get from taking down the first blood turret, they're just able to get up there as Effort kind of caught in no man's land here, but they're not going to chase over the wall. As level 10 Nidalee, pretty tanky actually. A nice stun comes in, and take a look at this. I mean, the top lane turret for blue side still has its plate up, and they're going to take another one.
Yep, it's another plate. And if they had like even 10 more seconds, they would have actually gotten the last plate on that turret too. Just barely not. And Rich should be fine here. He's actually going to try to trade this though.
Oh,
that was crazy.
Nice flash there. I like that flash over the medium fat wall there. Just going to get away from that one. Didn't want to flash under the turret. Wanted to make it more difficult for the Olaf to not just be able to run in a straight line. And now we're having a big rotation down to the bottom side.
It's just look at
trying to catch.
Look at the macro here, Valdez. I mean, look at where Nongshim is already. 3 in the bot lane. Too late to get turret plates. No value whatsoever. And now they don't have vision, so there's mid pressure and a Drake, and Summit's gonna, obviously, as the dust settles, he's gonna be like, alright, well, I guess I'm gonna push this turret down, I guess it's safe, but they lost another Drake, and Nongshim's rotations are just a little bit faster, they're a little bit crisper, and that's what Aphelios gives you with his pushing power, getting that first turret, getting the top pressure on those plates, and, you know, even with Rich in a fairly precarious position, he's able to escape, and then what's the call for Live Sandbox? Excuse me. What's the call for them? I mean, they just slowly rotate out. They just walked out of the lane and gave up a Drake for free, even though they had 3 in the bot side.
Yeah, and you take a look at the total golds here. The gold difference in the 80 carry role now is 2,000. So we're just we're getting a bit out of control. And you know, it's 1 assist, 1 kill. You know, maybe 7 CS, but the majority of that gold is just in turrets and plates. And Duckdom has just he's been tearing them down. He's destroying them one by one. And now, looks like Live Sandbox don't want to let this Rift Herald go for free, so they're going to try to group up here and deny this one successfully.
Yeah, not just going to let another objective go by the wayside. They are going to group up to contest this. Spay is unable to get that Scour of the Week to connect, but Duckdom is just like, okay, well, while you guys are being a little bit indecisive around the objective we're grouping on, I'll just take another turret, because I'm Aphelios, so I can crush that, and not to mention, when you look at his items, 152 CS, and all that turret plate gold that he's gotten, it's just insane. And, like, Live Sandbox deny the Herald, but they're unable to push in, make a pick happen, punish anything. And they're not so far behind in gold to where it's just not fightable. Like, they have to be decisive here. Look for a pick, look for an engage, and finally they are now.
Yeah, well, they've got Meganar, so they say, okay, let's charge in, see what we can get going. Meganar times out, and already, you know, the 1-item power spike is coming in here as... Okay, there's my stream back again. The Rift Herald is going to go down, as you may need to take over Wolf. My stream's having a little bit of trouble.
Alright, well, we're going to see Rich isolated here on the side. He's stunned up. He's going to continue to engage and does a bunch of damage there. Effort has to run away. Summit just barely able to escape over the wall. And nobody dying on the side of Live Sandbox here. Bay is down, but everyone's so low health that this is still a 3v3 fight now around the Herald. And Peanut will smite that away as she's trying to grab it, but I think Croco is going to take it away. Nope, Lantern!
Oh, what? Guys, come on! Alright, there he goes. So now they're going to go for a trade. See you later, Kellen. Just going to get blasted in the face there. I suppose that's the trade-off you have to make to get that Rift Herald. But from what I can garner, looks like Live Sandbox took a pretty nice little fight there. And they're going to get some decent objectives here. They're going to get some damage done to this mid-turret after that one.
Yeah, it was tons of damage done to Live Sandbox, but they weren't able to secure those kills, so they end up obviously, you know, backing, and they've got more presence on the map for just a moment, which allows them to clean that up, grab that mid-turret, which is really going to open things up for Fate. Is maybe you could, I mean, you'll get a second chance at this team fight now.
Yeah, looks like Rich just got pretty overextended there in the front, so they were able to chop him down, and Summit did a great job of baiting up on the top side, so Croco kind of hunting everybody down there, and yeah, after that, this is kind of where I picked up from.
Yeah.
It's a little do-si-do here.
I mean, Rich,
That was unfortunate.
he did a ton of damage on his exit from this world, but unfortunately, just not able to live there, not able to finish off any targets. And finally, Live Sandbox are able to, you know, take a trade in their favor, but it almost feels like it's too little too late. Like, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't dominant enough. As Rift Herald still goes to Peanut, obviously at a high price, but we'll see what they're able to accomplish with this. The mid turret still up here, and they're just going to toss it in to clear that up, because Fate has the mid lane opened up, and it's very powerful for Zoe, so at least they're going to turn that around a little bit.
Looks like there was some, you know, fighting over the vision there, over the Drake that is coming in. Mountain Soul this time around. We don't have any tanky members on either side, and I don't believe we're going to see too many tanky items built. Maybe the Gnar would gain the most benefit from this Drake. I suppose Olaf a bit as well. He's got that cow built up. And it looks like we're actually going to fight over this Drake here. Live Sandbox not scared to fight for this one, but this is what I was talking about. This one item power spike with the poke that they have.
Same.
Immediately Root just has 20% health.
Yeah, I mean, he's in such a precarious position. Like, even trying to go for bullet time is almost certain death. So, I mean, if Rich just shock blasts him, accelerates that, what's he gonna do? I mean, it's just so risky to actually commit. As Duckdom was like, yeah, so while you guys are being indecisive, another turret, by the way.
Yeah,
Just gonna grab some
third
extra
turret
gold.
of the game.
Yep.
Okay, Ragnarok coming out here a bit late, but again, they're just setting up a concave and saying, okay, I dare you to try to take the Mountain Drake. They're going to take a ton of damage from that mountain, and of course the poke that comes in. And another Drake is going to go the way of Nongshim, so they're one away from the Mountain Soul, and they are just powering up here in the mid-game. The Syndra beginning to look pretty insanely strong as well. It's a little bit disappointing that Rich has now fallen behind somehow. But you know, these things happen, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, he did die earlier in that fight, so wasn't able to get all of the waves that were up at that time. But I mean, he's not too significantly behind, I guess. And he still obviously has a lot of utility in the team fights. But Mountain Drake, as you mentioned, not incredibly useful on either team. Obviously, can be quite good for Nora and Olaf, but it's not great for really anybody on the side of Nongshim. I guess, you know, I don't know how many stacks Kellen has, but he would like to have it.
Yeah.
But I think it's more of just a denial at this point for Nongshim, and they can kind of accelerate the pace of the game by fighting around it and looking for follow-up objectives, because the Sandbox just do not want to give that extra scaling over to Nongshim, even if it's not the best for the composition they're running. I mean, you can't lose literally every objective on the map, right? You have to fight for those. And if they could somehow turn this game around, if they get, you know, if they're able to get multiple Mountain Drakes themselves, which seems very unlikely at this point, then that can really start to stack up for them. But it's a long slope to climb.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. Certainly right now they do not have much power in this game. Zoe loves priority, and while Fate is doing pretty well individually, I feel like he's not going to be getting too much help from his friends. We'll see, though, how this one does come down. I suppose the Olaf is pretty stacked, at least in terms of the kills, but he's also almost 60 CS behind Peanut right now as Krako, so not sure exactly who won that matchup when you look at it here in the mid-game, at least, as just a bit of posturing. I don't think either team is going to go for the Baron just yet, but Nongshim have a pretty massive Baron team when you look at it. You've got Jace, Syndra, and Aphelios especially with Crescendum. They're going to be able to chunk down that objective pretty fast if they win pretty much any fight.
Yeah, if they have control of this, the clear time for Baron is actually insane. They also have, if they have vision control, so much poke that will really chunk the Sandbox down at a range, at range distance. Whereas again, Fate is going to have a big problem. We had this yesterday with Zoe, where you just don't have the opportunity to do real damage if you don't have that vision control around Drake, around Baron. And Nongshim have just had these faster rotations. They are controlling vision pretty well. At the moment, at least on red side, Live Sandbox has that under their control. As Peanut is going to look over to see if there's anything in the pit. And there is. He's going to miss it just by a second, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's pretty annoying, of course. But, you know, we mentioned how the Mountain Drake it's not going to do too much, especially just the one Mountain Drake. But the Mountain Soul with the shield, as well as, you know, they've got some you know, supportive defensive items here and there. You know, you got the Zhonya's already on Peanut as well. They're going to be able to just, you know, mitigate just that extra bit of damage, and they're already ahead. So, as you were mentioning, you know, just deny and also get ahead at the same time. Nongshim currently in, they've got a pretty nice iron grip on this game. As long as they don't do what Rich did in that last fight around the second Rift Herald, I think they should be fine. You know, just go ahead, try to posture, try to poke them down. Don't allow Kroko and Summit to just hard engage on you with, you know, they don't have that much peel in their lineup. You know, they have the Scatter the Weak and maybe a box coming out from Kellen, but if Duckdom gets jumped on and stunned 100-0, there is still a chance for Liv Sandbox to potentially win a fight. It's just they got to start it on their terms.
Exactly, and that's why
they can do it.
That's why the Scuttle is so important, because even if they clear out the wards, you can't clear that Scuttle on Baron, so even though it looked like Liv Sandbox wanted to maybe try to make a play there's just no secrets around the Baron pit, at least for a few more moments here. So Nongshim get to take that fight on their terms, even at range, right? Even as a slow engage as they creep in, they have so much poke. So Liv Sandbox is back away and posture around this Mountain Drake. 28 seconds on that to go, and I mean, this is the fight you have to take if you're Liv Sandbox. I don't think you really have other options. The top pressure is on the turret, and time is ticking down for Liv Sandbox very quickly on this map as to teamfight opportunities they can win. I mean, this is their last big opportunity to bring this game back. I mean, it's almost easy if you lose this one, almost certainly. I mean, there are ways to come back, but it would require a lot of mistakes on Nongshim's part.
Yep, this is the big one. They kind of just have to win this fight, otherwise they're going to be in trouble. Effort takes about 30% of his health already from the Mountain Drake, so not the best start, but here we go. We'll see how the poke comes in. You see that a Shock Blast on the Summit isn't going to do too much. They got to hit that squishy backline. They'd love to hit Fate and Root if possible. As aggro on the Drake goes back to the side of Nongshim. Gonna leash here just a bit. Hook gonna sail wide. As Root Gale forces the stun that comes out. Okay, a sleep here onto Peanut could be huge. There's that burst I was talking about, and that's gonna give control of the pit over to the side of Liv Sandbox. Able to lock down that Mountain Drake. And more poke coming out here. Fate literally trying to single-handedly carry his team back into the game as Effort now going to get that engage down onto Bay. And they do chase them off the objective. So you see there almost 4,000 damage coming out from Fate as he just single-handedly pokes the enemy team away.
Yeah, he's out there by himself on the left side of the Dragon Pit, and there's just no one to deal with him. And the poke damage is insane. He's got his Horizon Focus finished now as well, which means that that damage gets even crazier. Nongshim still going to try to make this play around the Baron, though, because of the clear time we were talking about earlier. Vision control as well. Look at where the wards are. So Liv Sandbox, they see them coming. They decide to back away. But, you know, they were almost able to sneak that away, and they had full vision of the approach from Liv Sandbox, so was never really a risky choice because they could have always just walked away because of that vision. But yeah, that was an insane turn of events for Fate on the left side of that team fight, and Liv Sandbox survived because of it in this game. There's still a chance. It's, again, a mountain to climb, but there's a route back into this game now. No pun intended for Liv Sandbox. We're going to watch this this fight for Fate. Look at where he is on the side of the fight. He gets the big sleep off onto Peanut. Peanut's insanely low. And Rich, he's not a top laner who could really hard engage on him over this wall. Like, there's not much he could do. So he has to back away and almost gets taken out here. He's slapped, of course, and then eventually pushed back over the wall. But Fate just did so much damage there off of 2 big shots. And that's all you need when you've got that Horizon Focus finished on Zoe. If you're free to do so, if you're free to take the shots, I mean, you're not going to miss, not at this level.
Yeah. Z Omega Lull E comes back into the game. And, yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about. Fate is just getting so much more work done in these team fights. And I was actually taking a look at Duckdom in that fight. He was barely able to get any damage. I mean, there's just so much gold stacked onto this 80 carry player, and if he doesn't have a front line and they're not fighting front to back, and his team is just kind of getting poked out, he's also going to miss some opportunity to do some DPS, kind of in the way we were talking about with the Zoe earlier on.
Felt like the role of the MF and Leona bot lane was to kind of pressure and win the lane, but they lost that, and now his functionality in team fights, I mean, it's very low, right? And I mean, even with the amount of range that Nongshim has, bullet time isn't that useful. They're again vision control of this Drake, and they're just trying to rush it down with the clear time they have, and they're probably gonna get it.
Yeah, they're gonna be able to get this one here. Smited down by Peanut, and all of a sudden Root gets caught out. This is messy for the side of Liv Sandbox. Over the wall comes Rich. That's gonna be another one of them poked out from the get-go here. So now 5-on-3 with Baron buff. And Nongshim, you know, they were struggling a little bit after losing that last team fight. They want to make a big movement here and try to close this game out. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to end it, but they want to get a insurmountable lead, perhaps.
Kellen's just added more of these to his turret collection this game. He grabs another one on his way to this inhibitor. Isn't able to get the inhibitor turrets. Kellen's going deep!
Kellen trying to add some more Pog votes if he didn't already have enough. Although, did they just overextend here? Nice flight once again coming in. Effort desperately trying to get in there and do it, but not able to do too much. They're at least able to get the one kill as the stun comes out and pushes Summit away. As you can see, he's desperately trying to hop here and throw a boomerang onto Kellen, but he's way too fast now as he will get away. So the Baron still on the majority of the members here of Nongshim, and they get this inhibitor at 30 minutes into the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab this Scuttle, set up for Drake vision control, which is again so important. Well, I say that, it's actually stolen away. Or is it? Yeah, it's stolen away. I was pretty sure Croco actually nailed that. That's actually huge, because again, that last fight, as we're gonna take a look at this Baron rush down, and box placement's really nice here. Just not much you could do, unfortunately. It feels like the walls were closing in on Liv Sandbox. They saw Baron disappear before their eyes, and then they just decided to kind of go for it because they didn't want to give up another objective. This is insane.
I mean, he was reading that from the back. Like he knew the portal jump was coming in. You have to pre-fire that death sentence essentially to make sure that that one does land. And at the end of the day, you could see that Summit flashes forward for that kill. And there were no objectives after that, you know?
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have his flash for the way more important fight here over this Mountain Drake that's about to spawn.
At least they got the Scuttle, so we can see a little bit more control from Fate again, because he has long-range vision to do that damage to proc Horizon Focus. But still, I mean, look at the way the team is cut in half right now. Effort is struggling to do anything. All the orbs are just on top of him.
Yeah, that's a pretty little cooldown at this point. We'll see if he can get it back later on in the fight. That's going to be the kill going to actually Duck Dom on the side of Nongshim here, as I don't know what that Solar Flare was. Now Effort is just going to have to flash away. In goes Croco, is able to get a huge Gore Drinker stack there, but even the bullet time not really able to do much. Summit coming in here, and everybody on the side of Liv Sandbox just filtering in one by one. This is not what you want to see if you are a Liv Sandbox fan, as the rest of the members super low, and it looks like Nongshim might just look for the end now.
Yeah, it looks like this is just going to be a good old GG at the end of this game. No light at the end of the tunnel anymore for Liv Sandbox, even after that one incredible fight from Fate. There is just simply no way out. Too indecisive. Nongshim again out-rotating, out-macroing with this Aphelios pick, getting tons of turret plates early. Very impressive macro game once again.
Absolutely. GG comes through as Nongshim do take a big... Oh, my cat just jumped on my desk and knocked my mic away. But that's a big win for Nongshim. They come in here, they kind of prove that they are the winners here. The better team. Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted as my cat is... She is going nuts. The tail's in front of the camera. It's getting a little bit intense over here. But again, big win to the side of Nongshim. Yeah,
I mean, a dominant win. And there was, besides a few overextensions from Rich and team fights, although, I mean, you could argue in some of those overextensions, the damage was done, and like the function of the Jace in the team fight was maximized. His damage was maximized. Maybe could have done it a little bit slower and maybe a little bit safer, but that's Rich for you, since Heroes of the Storm. But a lot of indecision around some of these objectives when unfortunately for Live Sandbox, they just weren't able to rotate quickly enough, or they didn't have vision control of the Baron or the Drake. And when you're running a comp that really is so reliant on the Zoe, you're going to have a bad time if you can't control that vision, if you can't find those angles. And, I mean, you mentioned it, you pointed it out, and I wasn't even really lasering in on it, but just how little damage MF was able to do in that game, unfortunately, in those team fights, because it wasn't front to back. That's just not how the comps worked.
Yeah, just not really able to amount to too much there. That was a pretty decisive game to the side of Nongshim, I have to say. Not really, you know, there wasn't really too much that bothered me about that. There was that one team fight where Fate kind of just smurfed on them, but other than that, it was a really solid, straightforward win to the side of Nongshim. I feel like they played really well to their win conditions there. Their mid game, they exploded. We talked about the Baron. That came in as well. They're just like, they're reading the script here, and they're playing it out really well, so definitely a good first showing to Nongshim.
Yeah, I mean, the Aphelios pick, I think, is one that is rising, obviously, in popularity in LCK. The pairing with the Thresh, it just feels perfect for this team right now, especially for Duck Dom. And the way this team lane swaps and goes for those macro plays and turret plate control is... I mean, we're just seeing it so often that it makes you wonder, maybe some bans we warranted towards that, especially when we talk about blue side Aphelios.
Yeah.